This dog astonished everyone when it prevented people from disconnecting its owner from life support. The story is heartwarming and serves as a testament to the deep bond that can exist between humans and dogs. Michael was a police officer who worked in the canine unit and was responsible for training and handling one of the police dogs. During his career as a police officer, Michael worked with numerous canine partners, but he formed a particularly strong bond with a German Shepherd named Zeus. When it was time for Michael to retire from the force, he couldn't bear the thought of leaving Zeus behind, even though the dog was only a year old. Michael asked his boss if there was any way he could take Zeus with him into retirement, as he considered the dog to be a member of his family. Thankfully, his boss agreed and allowed Michael to take the dog with him. Zeus, who had a powerful name but was actually a gentle and affectionate puppy, preferred cuddling over playfighting and simply loved being with his owner. Initially, Michael's wife and children were hesitant to allow Zeus into their home as he had been trained as a police dog and therefore knew how to attack if necessary. However, Michael reassured them that he had personally trained Zeus and that the dog would not harm anyone. As Zeus adjusted to his new home, the family quickly grew to love him and he became a valued member of the household. However, something happened that caused Zeus to change his behavior completely. It was a couple of years after he had been brought home, and he was approximately 3 years old and a fully grown adult dog at this point. The day began like any other. Zeus and Michael went for their morning run and returned home for breakfast. As they approached the house, Michael noticed that the roof needed some repairs and decided to fix it after eating. As he gathered the necessary tools and began to climb onto the roof, Zeus started to behave strangely. He barked and whined and even tried to hold onto Michael's pant leg to prevent him from going up. Getting fed up, Michael called his wife and asked her to put the canine in the house as he wasn't letting the man work. Michael's wife did as she was asked and took the dog inside. However, he tried to resist all the way to the house. Not even 5 minutes later, though, the family heard a terrible scream coming from the front garden. They quickly rushed out of the house, all except Zeus, who was locked in the kitchen. But what they found outside shocked them all. There, lying on the grass in front of the garden, was Michael. He had fallen off of the roof and hit his head on the ground. Michael's wife began to cry and called out to him. However, the man did not react. While she was doing this, their children called the emergency services for an ambulance. A short while later, Michael was rushed to the hospital where he was placed into critical care and given extensive scans to see just how badly he was injured. Whilst the doctors found a few scrapes and bruises, including a broken arm, the thing that they were most worried about was Michael's head. His wife told them that he had hit his head on the ground quite hard, and they worried that this could have caused irreparable damage, and their fears were soon realized. Michael slipped into a coma and nothing seemed to help wake him up. After Michael had been in the hospital for a while, his family decided to take him home and hire a nurse to check up on him, as they felt that a familiar environment might help the man wake up again. Once Michael was back home, the first one by his side was Zeus. The dog had been crying for days, sad that his owner was nowhere to be found. The canine quickly made his home at the end of Michael's bed and rarely left the area unless it was to be fed or to go relieve himself outside. 2 years passed, and there was still no sign that Michael was ever going to wake up. The cost of keeping him on the incubator and having a nurse look after him soon began to add up, and his family began to despair over what they should do. The only one who stuck by the man's side the entire time was Zeus.
Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story.
One day, a doctor went to check on Michael when he noticed something about the man. After a few more checks, the doctor realized that even though he couldn't move or speak, Michael could still feel what was happening around him. It was at this point that the doctors told the family that it might be for the best if Michael was humanely euthanized in order to put an end not only to his suffering, but to the family's as well. Michael's wife was devastated at this new information and didn't know what to do. Michael was the love of her life, and she had planned on spending the rest of their days together. Sadly, she accepted the idea that it might be better for the man if he was let to rest, and she agreed with the doctor's suggestion of euthanasia. The only problem was that Michael would have to be taken to the hospital in order for the process to be done. The doctor reassured Michael's wife and told her that he would send a team around the next day to take the man to the hospital. Whilst this was happening, Zeus sat in the corner and seemingly watched and listened to everything that was being said. The next day, when the paramedics arrived to collect Michael, something strange happened. As the paramedics began to enter Michael's room, Zeus began to bark and growl at them in an angry manner. He bared his teeth and clearly threatened to bite them if they tried to come any closer to the man. Terrified of the canine, the paramedics refused to enter the room until the dog was out of the way. Michael's daughter entered the room and forcefully removed Zeus, taking him outside so that he couldn't harm anyone. Once the dog was out of the way, the paramedics quickly got Michael into the ambulance and drove off to the hospital. As he saw the vehicle drive off, Zeus began to pull on his leash. He ended up pulling so hard that the daughter felt like she had no choice but to unleash him. Once free, the dog began sprinting down the street after the ambulance. Seeing the canine so worked up, Michael's wife began to wonder if the animal was trying to tell her something. The animal had gotten very upset before Michael had fallen from the roof, and he was acting in the exact same way now. Worried that she might have made a terrible mistake, she got into her car and drove after the dog. Once she reached the hospital, she noticed Zeus running into the building. The dog quickly followed his nose and found the room where Michael was. The canine then charged into the hospital room only to see a doctor about to inject his owner with the euthanizing drug. The dog quickly pounced on the doctor, pushing him to the floor and causing him to drop the drug. The doctor cried out in terror and began to scream for someone to help get rid of the dog. Just as someone was about to try and remove the canine though, they all heard a sound that made them freeze. Michael's heart monitor began to pick up speed. Then they heard a quiet and raspy voice call out for them to leave the dog alone. With everybody too shocked to move, Zeus moved away from the doctor and over to Michael's bedside, his tail wagging the whole time. Michael's wife entered the room only to realize that her husband had finally woken up. When Michael's wife saw him, she was overwhelmed with happiness and began to cry. She couldn't believe he was back. The doctor quickly got to his feet and examined Michael to ensure that he was indeed okay. In the meantime, Michael's wife called their children to share the good news. After a few weeks, Michael was released from the hospital and able to return home. As soon as he arrived, Zeus was the first to greet him, jumping up and showering him with kisses. Michael chuckled and knelt down to embrace his dog. He knew that if it weren't for Zeus, he might not have survived. This story illustrates the importance of listening to our pets, as they often have a better understanding of what's best for us. If you enjoyed this story, please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. Also press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.